Okay, so let's review what we did again. So we wanted to add some space between the snippets, and we couldn't add that margin to our sections, which is really where it belonged. Now we could have added it to one of the nested elements, in particular the snippet content, but that wouldn't have been quite the right place to do it. As our layout changes, if it gets smaller and we need to adjust things, the margin is really associated with this whole snippet rather than one of the elements inside it. And adding it to the wrong element will bite us later on. I can almost guarantee it. So we needed to add it to our section tag. Now our section didn't have any size because everything inside of it was floated, so we had to set the overflow to auto, and then to make it shrink to the actual width of the content, we needed to set the display to inline block, and then we were able to set the margin on the right. Or ultimately, what we'll want to do is set a little margin on the right and margin on the left. So now another thing we have to wonder about at this point is whether these styles should actually be attached to the snippet class. If we envision these snippets in other areas of the site, it seems pretty possible that they'd be displayed a bit differently. But for now, we don't have any other examples of the way that snippets would be used, and so we don't have a sense of what's going to be kind of the standard way to use it across the site. It's possible that this may be the only time the snippet is ever used. So we'll attach the styles to the snippet class for now, and know that we can edit this later or create subcomponents in order to get different layouts. Okay, so I'm going to go back to our editor and I'm going to open up the snippet partial. Now I'm in PHP Storm, I'm using that as my IDE, and to get this to pop up I hit Shift and then I can search for file names. Okay, and we're going to add these styles to the snippet. So overflow, auto, display, inline block, and then we'll add margin to the right and left. So we'll set the margin to 0 for the top and bottom, and then 10 to the right and left. Let's save this and refresh in the browser. So the one last thing we needed to add was vertical alignment to the snippets. So let's add one more line, vertical line, top. We'll save it and refresh, and there we go. So back in our snippet code, we used pixels for a few of these measurements. Let's evaluate whether these should be relative. Now it feels like the margin should be relative because it should be based on the font size. So I'll shift this over to px2rem. And since we set the margin for that way, to be consistent, I think it makes sense to shift this margin over to it as well.